Hi, and welcome to Security Speakeasy, where we talk about all things network security. Today, we're going to talk about how you can take a shift left approach towards data security. My name is Brian Rummel, product marketing lead for Prisma SASE at Palo Alto Networks. I love the topic of our talk today, a shift left approach. So I'm sure our audience is familiar with shift left when it comes to software development lifecycle, implementing security earlier in the lifecycle. So what does that mean to you when it comes to taking a shift left approach to data security?
Great question. Something that that excites us a lot here at Palo Alto, in general, right? We have seen that with other parts of our other domains of security, taking a shift left approach. With data security, as it stands today, here is what is top of mind, right? So how do you fill gaps in a traditional DLP system and make sure that your data posture, you're able to monitor it very early in the cycle? So let me give you an example. Traditional DLP systems typically create a lot of false positives. And then an organization's security team is spending a lot of time and resources in weeding through that in an incident management and response part of the the workflow. We want to be able to catch things upstream and avoid this alert fatigue in the first place. So you need to make sure that your modern data security tooling and solutions use again like modern and techniques like machine learning to weed out the false positives or to improve accuracy of the detections upstream so that you don't spend a lot of time downstream. So I think that's one. Second, related to the crown jewels, the intellectual property, I think you need to make sure that your data security solutions allow you to train the models with your unique data so that you can precisely identify and prevent your crown jewels from being shared to destinations where it's not supposed to be. So that's the second sort of shift left approach. And then the third is fundamentally um, a, um, a pivot on incident management in general. And so most traditional systems create incidents, and then after the incident is created, you spend a lot of time analyzing the context around those incidents and figuring out, is this important for me to pay attention to? So that's post the fact. And I think modern data security requires the element of risk introduced into these systems very early on. So you're taking the context of, say, the application. How risky is the application? The user, what has the user done in the past? And what does their risk profile look like? What location, what device, whether it's managed or unmanaged? All those contextual attributes need to be taken into account to create what we call as data risk. And that risk needs to be ascertained early on in the cycle. So you can both be reactive to understand, is this risky enough for me as a SOC person to pay attention to? And as well as proactive controls to say this user or this application is risky enough, we want to prevent data exfiltration in the first place. So stop things from being bad or going to a bad state early on in the cycle. So that sort of forms the how do you fill gaps in the traditional DLP system and make them more modern and more posture aware. Now let's get to AI systems. Uh, I think in general, organizations need to prepare for generative AI risks. And the preparation follows what we have been doing for other SaaS apps as well, but the uniqueness comes in the form of generative AI apps itself. So step one for an organization is to have complete visibility and a comprehensive view of AI service usage in their environment. So, so as an organization, do you know which apps, generative AI apps, are being used in an environment? Which apps do the users actually want to use? So it starts with that level of visibility. Step two is usually around the notion of sanction versus unsanctioned. So there are some apps that you as a business want to actually enable for your users, and you'll sanction them. And so you making sure that you have a catalog of services that you sanction, and for the services that you do not want to allow your users to use for whatever reasons. This could be compliance, this could be security risk, this could be sort of enterprise agreements that you have with certain services as well. You want to be able to block unsanctioned apps as well. So that gets you into your users to using the right set of apps. Now, following that, for at least the sanctioned applications themselves, you want to make sure that as your users are interacting with those AI prompts and also generating new data, their interaction with the prompts are uh, are you can look at the data that your users are sharing with the generative AI apps, inspect it, and prevent sort of sensitive data from being sent to these generative AI apps in the first place as well. So like it's like a three-step approach: visibility, control, and then making sure that sensitive data is not being sent to these generative AI apps.
That makes sense. We don't want source code to end up inside ChatGPT, for example.
Absolutely. Or the fact that any of your credit card numbers as you are interacting with customer support agents, interacting with your users, or the users are not sharing sort of social security numbers with any of these as well. So yes, a lot of sensitive information you want to prevent sort of all of that being shared. Um, Now, let's get to the sort of the third part of the equation, which is interconnected SaaS apps. Now, as we said, these SaaS apps are essentially becoming ecosystems of their own with their plugin marketplace, with their app marketplaces. So what we want to do there is also a very similar approach, but applied differently. So the similar approach in this case is you want to gain comprehensive visibility again into what a sanctioned SaaS app is and what is unsanctioned. And you need to make sure that you regularly assess the posture, the security configurations of all of your sanctioned apps as well, including, say, the likes of allowing marketplaces or not allowing marketplaces. And even when you're allowing marketplace apps to exist in the first place, you need to have uh, complete control over which apps in the marketplace are allowed, what is the security posture of each and every of these apps, and how many users are using them. And if at certain point in time you want to have control over revoking access, you need to be able to revoke access as well when the app is from a marketplace is deemed risky. So like a similar approach to AI apps, first starts with visibility, understanding which apps are being used and which marketplaces apps are being used. Second, assessing posture of each and every one of these apps. And then third, once you deem something to be risky, making sure that you have the control to be able to revoke access or remove those apps from the marketplaces.
That makes sense. And yeah, I was just thinking that, a lot of times organizations will enable Google apps, for example, or Microsoft apps, and they don't realize that actually within those applications, there's whole ecosystems of much smaller apps that we may have never heard of before, and we don't know how they handle their data, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Fantastic explanation, Rajesh. So quickly to summarize, the opportunities that organizations have with the respect to shifting left on data security. One, I heard that they need to do a really good job of monitoring their taking an earlier approach in terms of shifting their attention from a reactive to a proactive approach, monitoring that data security posture earlier in the data lifecycle, making sure that you're using a solution with machine learning techniques that can reduce those false positives and identify that risk. Then when it comes to generative AI, making sure that you've got a comprehensive view into what Gen AI tools are being used in your environment, taking those controls in terms of what you're allowing, what you're not allowing, and then making sure that no sensitive data is being pasted into those tools. And then finally, when it comes to interconnected SaaS, being aware of those SaaS ecosystems in your environment, making sure that you have that visibility into which apps are connected to myriad of other apps, assessing those configurations, making sure that you've got the right controls on there, and that you're really limiting that exposure with apps that maybe you don't trust as much. So fantastic advice. I hope everyone got a lot out of it today. I know that I did. So thank you so much, Rajesh, for joining us on Security Speakeasy and talking about how organizations can take that shift left approach in their data security. And thank you, audience, for watching. If you like the show, go ahead and click that like button, subscribe to our channel, and of course, visit paloaltonetworks.com to learn more. Thank you.